Good evening. Thank you very much for watching our current affairs update in English. We're going to take a look at the case of Jean-Paul Sophia and the events of Parliament this week. We're speaking with the Honourable Eve Borg Bonello to hear her account of how things spanned out. Thank you very much, Eve, for meeting us to tell us about your experiences of the events this week in connection with the tragic death of Jean-Paul Sophia.
Thank you very much for the invite. I really appreciate being given a further platform to explain to everyone out there what's going on and to continue our fight for justice for Jean-Paul Sophia.
Tell me about the events as they spanned out this week in Parliament. It was a precedent.
Definitely. This started last week when we had the debate on the motion put forward by the opposition regarding the public inquiry. And the first strange thing was the fact that the Labour Party didn't accept voting on the same day as the debate, because usually procedurally you always vote the day of the debate. And they pushed the debates to this week, so we had the discussion.
I ask why?
I feel there's a lot of different opinions and theories as to why, but maybe they were banking on the magisterial inquiry coming out. Maybe they were just trying to buy some time. Maybe they were trying to have a vote that was less emotional, because given the nature of the subject, voting right after that kind of debate, it's much more emotional and it might get to one of their MPs' conscience a bit more. So we ended up voting this week. We had a sitting in the morning and a sitting in the evening. In the morning there was something to do with renewable energy. I had contributed to the discussion, and the Prime Minister was present, and they were really trying to push this debate to try and maybe distract a bit from what was going on. And it didn't work out for them, clearly. The entire country was looking to Parliament, waiting to hear what the decision was going to be, waiting to see whether those in charge were going to respect their oath of the allegiance that they take as soon as they enter into office, that we take as soon as we enter into office, which is to be loyal to the Constitution and our people. And we saw that the result of the vote was anything but.
Can you describe what happened when the voting results were revealed?
I feel like the disappointment hit even before the result was revealed, even before the vote was even taken. Starting from myself, I consider myself a bit of an optimist, and I was hoping maybe at least one MP from the government side would feel their heartstrings pull, would have their conscience working, and feel obliged to vote on the side of justice, on the side of a public inquiry, on the side of a mother who is grieving and doing everything she can for justice for her only son. And I was also hoping maybe Rosiane Cotaya might vote with us, might vote in favour of justice, because you could make the argument that others are bound to vote according to the order of the whip, but she's an independent MP now. So, and then afterwards she had left before the vote was even taken, and I saw it as a huge act of cowardice.
So you're saying she didn't vote?
She didn't vote. And not only did she abstain, she left. And I saw that as an act of cowardice. But don't get me wrong, not to focus it in on her, because these are 40 people, 40 MPs, 40 representatives of the people who had no conscience, who are spineless, and voted against justice. Not only voted against justice right in front of the mother, right in front of Isabel Bonnici, because Isabel Bonnici was in the gallery of Parliament looking down on us, hoping that we were going to do right by her and her son.
We're going to take a look at a report from Net News of 3rd December, when the Corradino building collapsed, claiming the life of 20-year-old Jean-Paul Sophia. The incident unfolded at approximately 9:30 a.m. on the Saturday, when the building in the Corradino industrial estate collapsed while workers were engaged in pumping concrete on the third floor. According to Jean-Paul Sophia's parents, their son was not on duty that day, but had visited the site to deliver some tools to his colleagues. CCTV footage captured Jean-Paul Sophia entering the building merely 8 minutes before the building collapsed. The lifeless body of 20-year-old Jean-Paul Sophia, a resident of Swatar, was finally recovered by rescuers at about 1:40 a.m. on Saturday. This marked the end of a 16-hour operation during which tons of debris had to be meticulously removed. Prior to the recovery of Jean-Paul Sophia's body, the rescue operation had successfully saved 5 other workers on Saturday. These individuals were promptly transported to the hospital, where they received medical treatment for severe and critical injuries. Among the rescued workers were 3 Albanians, a worker from Bosnia, and a Maltese man from St. Paul's Bay. The recovery of Jean-Paul Sophia's body proved to be a difficult operation, taking nearly 16 hours to accomplish. The rescue team encountered difficulty due to the precarious state of the remaining structure. Working diligently, they finally reached the area where the victim was presumed to be located. The incident was captured by dramatic CCTV footage, revealing the building's rapid collapse, triggered by a section of the bottom floor wall giving way. Within a mere 5 seconds, the entire structure crumbled, leaving devastation in its wake. So it wasn't obvious to you and your fellow MPs that the result was going to be the way it was?
It was obvious, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we are in a country where we have to expect the worst. I'm really sorry for maybe not expressing this properly, but unfortunately that is the case. You always end up expecting the absolute worst from these people. But even despite that, I was hoping at least one person out of 40 MPs was going to stand up, and no one did. And that hit. And then as soon as we took the vote, because first we voted on a government amendment, then ours, because the government had amended our bill basically to remove the public inquiry from it. And there were a few seconds of silence in the chamber. And then Jean-Paul Sophia's family started reacting.
Mm-hmm. What was the reaction?
At first, they started voicing their disapproval under their breath, for lack of a better word. They were whispering it between themselves and just talking between themselves. And the speaker stopped them because parliament rules are that you cannot show any approval or disapproval from the gallery, even if it's a session giving condolences to an ex-MP or a family member or the budget. And he tried to shut them up, basically. But he quickly gave up because he quickly realized there's nothing that could stop that family from fighting for their son. Mm-hmm. And it was truly heartbreaking. And once it started getting more and more intense, I pulled out my phone and I started recording, because all I could think is the people out there deserve to see what we are seeing. Mm-hmm. The people out there deserve to see this family. You could hear the emotion and the shrieks of pain in their voice. And then I just looked forward to my colleagues from the government side of the house, on the other side of the house. And they're all either looking down, like a little boy and a little girl, school children, getting a telling off from a teacher or a headmistress. Whereas the others were all playing on their phone and just ignoring what was going on.
Do you think they were uncomfortable?
It showed, yes, definitely.
Do you think any of them were uncomfortable to vote against the public inquiry?
Probably. I've heard that there was a lot of resistance to this vote and there was a lot of debate in their parliamentary group. However, aside from speculation, at first I said, poor old people, they didn't get to vote with their conscience. But then after a second I said, no, never mind, these people do not deserve my empathy. These people do not deserve our sympathy because they didn't vote, not out of fear from some grave injustice. They didn't vote in favor of a public inquiry to protect their position, to protect their leader's position, and to help everyone else continued to hide whatever it's being hidden, whether they knew what was being hidden or not. They had the chance to do the right thing. If they wanted to, they would have. So in that moment, at first I was like, God knows how someone who didn't want to vote in favor of their motion and against ours must feel. But then after a few minutes, I said no. If they wanted to, they could.
So once the family were shown out of Parliament, what happened? How did the session wind up?
The family's reaction to what happened in Parliament, to the vote, lasted about 10 minutes. And it was truly heartbreaking. I mean, it was very emotional. You hearing a father call out saying, "You killed my son. My son is dead because of corruption. You get to go home and hug your daughter, Mr. Prime Minister. I can't." And hearing Isabel Bonici, the mother of John Paul Sofia, call out and say, not one of you could give me a reason for this vote. And then hearing them both and the rest of the family saying, if you have the guts, if you have a conscience, look us in the eye after what you've done. It was heartbreaking. And then they were escorted out of Parliament by police and ushers. And as soon as they left, I burst out crying. I burst out crying in my seat. I felt like a hopeless little girl. It was truly, truly disappointing. And the Parliament remained silent. I mean, some MPs, including myself, from the opposition side, were looking to the government side, saying, shame on you, you should be ashamed of yourselves, and just expressing our disapproval. But the even more cynical, cold, heartless aspect of this whole is, after a vote against a public inquiry into the death of a worker, which the Workers' Party voted against, what did we do? We went on to vote on the 14 land grab. And they voted in favor of that. And that just felt completely heartless, and it just further cemented that these people do not care. They don't have a conscience. They only care about their pockets. They only care about their position. They only care about their money. They only care about their ego. These people are meant to represent me and you. They don't care. They blatantly voted for an injustice. But don't worry, in a few days you see pictures of them on Facebook going to the village feast and doing house visits, pretending to be close to the people, where they voted against justice against one of their own voters.
Last week, the Parliament of Malta made a decision regarding the opposition's motion calling for a public inquiry into the tragic death of Jean Paul Sofia, the victim of a construction site incident in Cordine Industrial Estate. The motion was initially presented by the opposition on Thursday week, sparking a heated debate within the House. However, the government introduced an amendment during the course of the discussion, emphasising Parliament's commitment to addressing the issues surrounding the incident. The government's amendment also stressed the urgency for the inquiring magistrate to expedite the investigation and highlighted the importance of holding those accountable for the incident to accept responsibility for their actions. Given the government's majority in Parliament, the amended motion received approval, with the opposition voting against it. Opposition leader Bernard Gregg presented the amendments accompanied by a petition signed by nearly 20,000 individuals who demanded a public inquiry. Gregg stated that this request was in response to the Sofia family's request. The government's amendments received approval, with 40 government MPs voting in favour and 32 opposition MPs voting against. Similarly, the opposition's amendments were rejected by the same margin. It should be noted that opposition MPs Chris Syed, Ivan J. Bartolo and Graham Pencini were not present during the vote. However, the PN whip, Robert Kutayar, confirmed that they had expressed their support for the opposition's motion. Finance Minister Clyde Caruana, Gozo Minister Clint Camilleri and Romilda Baldacchino Zarp, who are government MPs, were absent during the vote. Independent MP Rosiane Kutayar left the Parliament before the vote took place. Kutayar explained that she felt uncomfortable remaining in Parliament as she believed the government's amendment would have passed regardless of her vote. For months since his death, Jean-Paul Sofia's parents and friends have been shown tremendous support by the public as they demanded a public inquiry into the incident. The Sofia family firmly believe that a magisterial inquiry would not thoroughly examine all the factors that may have contributed to the tragedy, including the allocation of public land and the conduct of individuals involved. However, the government has been hesitant to endorse this request, with Prime Minister Robert Abela expressing full confidence in the ongoing magisterial inquiry. How do you think, moving forward with the magisterial inquiry, how is this going to conclude?
We obviously have to wait for this to be published. What I cannot accept is the Prime Minister time and time again using the presiding magistrate as a scapegoat and attacking her. As everyone knows, a magistrate does not have the right of reply, and this is very unfair. What's very concerning is the twisting of the truth by the Prime Minister. He's saying that he's going to publish it in full and do this and that when he might not even be able to. And
why?
Because a magisterial inquiry, this is one of the main differences between a magisterial inquiry and a public inquiry.
Yes, I know, but...
A public inquiry is public and even the sittings are public.
But if he says he's publishing it, it will be published, no?
I don't know. I don't know, because usually a magisterial inquiry isn't published. What he could do is maybe publish the sentence, but there might not be all the information there. And even so, the information that Isabel Bonici is after aren't things that are found by a magisterial inquiry. Magisterial inquiry only establishes criminal guilt. It tells you person A, person B, person C broke criminal law, and then they are taken to court and by the police, and proceedings follow. But a public inquiry is different. A public inquiry tells you about the political guilt, the authorities, whether they fulfill their responsibilities. It answers questions like the fact that the land was government owned. It was given to people who allegedly had a criminal record. One of them allegedly is a human trafficker. And there are a lot of irregularities. The person behind the construction was unlicensed. There were a lot of questions involved in this deal. What? The fact that Jean-Paul's body took 15 hours to be uncovered, and a policeman had gone up to Isabel Bonici saying they found him well and alive. There are so many questions, but these aren't answered by a magisterial inquiry. And anything to the contrary of what I'm saying is simply untrue. A public inquiry also tells you, and this is most important out of all, what laws need to change, so there won't be another Jean-Paul Sofia, so there won't be another Isabel Bonici that has to fight for her son. It tells us what has to change. We cannot continue to be completely desensitized to human life being lost on the altar of greed, and this obsession to always grow the economy, grow the economy, grow the economy. What good is a big economy? What good does it serve if the quality of life of people out there is terrible? People cannot even keep up with daily expenses. I go to house visits, people tell me, I meet mothers who tell me, I'm not going to eat tonight, so my kids could eat. And then we say it's all for an economy.
Can I ask about the employer, Jean-Paul Sofia's employer? Why did he send him to the building?
What is publicly known is that he was sent early in the morning to either drop off some tools or pick up some tools.
And that was part of his job?
I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate.
Mm-hmm. And just going forward now, with regards to the family, do they have the right support around them?
I feel like I haven't ever seen this country so united before. I feel like they have the entire country behind them. Mm-hmm. And this goes to show that this is not a partisan issue. This is not a red and blue issue. This is a political issue only because the Prime Minister is making it one. This would have never have become a political issue if the Prime Minister followed his duty and called for a public inquiry. And what's really noble about Isabel Bonici's family is that their fight is not only for John Paul. Their fight is to change the laws. Their fight is to change the laws regarding the construction industry so we don't keep seeing these pointless deaths, these futile deaths that we've become desensitized to. Their fight is to change the law so workplace deaths are always followed by an inquiry that is made public. They know what this pain is and they don't want anyone else to go through it. And I feel that everyone outside this building of Parliament, if I could say, has a pumping heart and a conscience. And they could tell that this is not right, that there is something wrong. I mean, I have friends who sympathize with the Labour Party, and even they are shocked and feel completely let down. I mean, John Paul was a Labour supporter. It shouldn't even matter. But to see that they don't... I'm sorry I'm getting emotional about this, but it's complete heartlessness and spinelessness.
You think most young people support Jean Paul's cause?
Definitely. I really do feel that is the case, because I'm seeing people who are my age who never comment about politics, never comment about current affairs, really try to stay neutral, or are supporters of the Labour Party, that are commenting and posting and attending vigils and organizing. Different organizations are speaking up, people who usually never did before. And I feel like John Paul is going to be made into a sort of martyr for his cause. If we get justice for John Paul, we could get justice for so many other people that follow. We would establish a precedent. We would see that his situation isn't repeated again. And I feel that this is a very important time in our country, and that each and every single one of us has to stand up. If we don't stand up, if we don't speak up, if we do not fight with everything we have for justice, we will be as guilty, and we would have as much blood on our hands as those 40 spineless, cowardly MPs who voted against justice.
Eve, how many people have signed the petition so far?
The petition has only been running for about 5 days, and it's already amassed, by the time of recording now, 26,000 signatures. I have never seen something so powerful and something that grabbed the nation's attention and sympathy to such an extent. So I really ask the viewers to please continue signing this petition. It is available online on change.org, and to really keep themselves up to date with everything to do with Justice for John Paul Sofia on the Facebook page and Instagram page, Al John Paul.
How, in your opinion, can the parents of Jean Paul Sofia find closure?
The only way the parents and the family of John Paul Sofia could ever find closure is by finding justice. And the only way they could find true, full justice is through a public inquiry. And for that reason, I'm going to continue making this appeal to the public, to continue signing the petition and be vigilant and active and attentive to Facebook pages like Al John Paul Sofia, which is where Isabel Bonici is communicating from, to keep up to date with any events, any actions, any coverage, and anything which she may ask for, or appeals to the public to keep engaged and to keep the pressure on. Let's show the authorities, let's show the Prime Minister that Malta's heart is beating with Isabel Bonici's.
How are you carrying on your fight to support the family?
I'm trying my best to remain as active as possible on the case, to really do anything I can from my platform to push the message, to push whatever events or activities or initiatives they are taking. I made sure to be very active in Parliament in these past few months, talking about the case, and I'm trying to basically do everything I can to keep the pressure on the authorities and to keep this fight going, so maybe this family would actually have justice, and not only for John Paul Sofia, but for every person who comes after him.
Thank you very much, Eve. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for watching our current affairs briefing in English, where we've taken a look at the case of Jean-Paul Sophia and his tragic death. Should you wish to participate in the petition and sign the petition, you'll find the details on the screen. I'm Leah Hogg for Net TV, and thank you for watching once again.